morning, good morning, our energy panelists and viewers. The first podcast session curated and moderated by GDP Foundation, a trust that is spearheading this program. Also ably guided and assisted by three able startups who are by name Teamer Foundation. So far, this project, that we envisaged and initiated has received overwhelming response. A lot of applications, a lot of energy. The whole initiative was started to have young minds, solutions, innovators to come in and provide their support and inputs and the innovations to support this particular crisis and to come out with good ideas that will serve the society as well as commerce. Uh, we have some eminent panelists today. We have Dr. Praveen Kullar, who is head GDC Sanofi Synthelabo and president of Goa Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association. We have Dr. Christina, the author, vice principal, and head of department economics, Government College Khandola. And we have Ms. Jyoti Dhon, director and general manager, Goa Doot. I welcome one and all, and thank you for finding time to participate in this podcast. The topic today that we have is a very relevant and an important topic, which is for women empowerment and rural development, role of industry and educational initiatives. This topic was chosen as the first on this podcast, keeping in mind the importance and the relevance that women today, students, young women who are aspiring, to sort of scale up in life, to find opportunities. They are they are the stakeholders really in the times to come, and we thought that would be an important topic to start with. So I will pose the first question to all of you, starting with Anna. And so how do you define empowerment, and how do you see its definition changing this current crisis?
Women empowerment, I feel, is the capacity of women to know who they are and also to they enable themselves to achieve their goals. So empowerment is economic, social, political, as well as cultural. And women empowerment comes from within, you know. It's not that somebody empowers them. It is from within. Women empower their own selves. So women therefore need to know what is their abilities, capacities, which will enable them to achieve their goals and their well-being. So that is what women empowerment actually means to me.
That's right. That's very well said, Dr. Christina. I agree with you that ultimately, to start with, it should come within. Dr. Kullar,
Right.
what are your views about women empowerment? How do you see the whole reflection out of this crisis in the times today?
Amey, I think the women empowerment, as Dr. Krishnan has mentioned, it comes from within. You need not to give an external stimuli to make an empowerment. I think it's a passion, internal skills, and ability to drive and then do that. I believe women have internal multitasking capacities to maintain their all kind of facet of life, whether it is a home or the office. Creativity, skill development, and currently post-COVID, I think opportunity to work from home might add further value. We give a flexibility to the women to balance, home and work together. So I believe that digitalization to add to the skills, whether it's a self-help group or you have a creative arts, and then can try to do it. Even whether it's in a teaching, whether it's a sport from a IT point of view, or whether you can make something as a physical form of any items which you can sell, and even in environment, women can give a lot of positive parts. Self-help group can be tried, where you can make some disposable, or you can make kind of cloth bags to remove plastic bags to be acting for the environment contribution. So I believe that women empowerment would get an impetus in the change scenario, reason to travel to the office and have a difficulty to balance home and office might get much more comfortable, as working home would not be as a convenience or as a discount to work, but I think it is a way of life to work, and that will give a lot of flexibility to use free time positively. And in self-reliant and dependent country, I think women can play a very important role, and I look forward that it will be a opportunity under the challenging scenario, and it will make a very positive note in the coming months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Kulla. Those were some insightful points that you have given, and something to really think about. Ms. Don, what are your remarks on this question?
I agree with the two other panelists that women empowerment comes from within, but I also have another point to make here. We might be talking of developed countries where women empowerment, which is very much inside a woman, doesn't need much impetus or support to be expressed or to accomplish it. But in a country like India, even in a place like Goa, where we have the rate of education for girls is very high. People send their daughters to schools and colleges. I feel every woman is capable. She has got the inherent talents with her. But I feel empowerment starts from your own homes. Empowerment starts from your own offices. Empowerment starts from the society. When I say it starts from your own homes, I feel that today we have more or less the patriarchal society where the gent is considered as the head of the family. In that family, if the woman has to be empowered, no matter how much talent she has that confidence needs a boost. And the family itself has to accept her as an individual, not on basis of gender, that she's a female or he's a male. So the basic empowerment which should start from every for a woman should be from the family. The family has to accept her that she's psychologically independent, she's financially independent, she's educationally independent, she's economically independent. This freedom, many at large, if you see, even in the city levels amongst the educated elite societies, you will see that this empowerment is not there. Whereas if you see the rural sector, you will find in many households, women have a better say with respect to the day-to-day activities, with respect to the economic activities, even with respect to decision making. So here we find a contrast. I'm saying yes, every woman is empowered from within, but that needs to be well supported by the family, that needs to be well supported by the society, that needs to be well supported in the offices where we work. Now, post-COVID, if you ask me, if you take even during COVID times, if you see a woman's role in a household, if at all the roles are shared, when the men will start taking the woman's role or share the role in a household, that will give her more empowerment that I'm being respected for what I do in my own homes. My decisions are respected when there's a democratic discussion in the homes about what to do and what not to do. But here we find cases that within the homes, most of the decisions are taken by the men and women have to just implement them. So when it comes to empowerment, it should start from the household level. That is my opinion.
Absolutely. I think there's some very, very interesting points in this zone, and I think we've been talking about these points, we've been writing about it, we've been reading about these. But if you look at India as a whole, I think we have a lot of work to do still. And that's where my next question is in terms of mobilization, in terms of encouraging women participation, in terms of empowering women. Do you think that apart from home, do we also need to improve our education systems? Does the government need to intervene and make these systems more robust? Other than education, do you think anything else that can make this process fruitful and streamlined? Dr. Christina, your views on that, please.
Yeah, I feel education plays a very important role. If in the homes, like Mrs. Don said, they don't feel empowered, then when they come to schools and colleges, I think it is a responsibility of teachers to educate both boys as well as girls. So equal opportunities, not being gender biased, being more gender fluid, okay, and putting it up to the students through examples and being a role model is very important. So education plays a very important role where girls will realize the importance of empowerment and boys will respect that. Moreover, since we are looking at the rural economy, I think women empowerment would come about if proper training is given to women. In my studies, I have found that women find it don't have entrepreneurial skills. They lack entrepreneurial skills in the studies that I have done in the rural economy with self-help groups. So providing them with entrepreneurial skills is important and developing their skills and talents so that they become economically independent by producing those products for which they have the required skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Dr. Christina. Dr. Kullar, your views on how you revitalize the whole structure on economic empowerment of women?
Yeah, see, I think, as rightly said, our education system can give you an orientation of what you need to know about things. But how to use to the marketplace, entrepreneurship, I think that skill which is required to connect to the market and then see the basic. I strongly believe that the orientation to the industry or business as a project or kind of apprenticeship can be very, very critical and important. And maybe a small training program for a few weeks and month can be a bait for this self-help group to see that how they can make their product visible, how they can reach to the marketplace, what are the commercial things they need to know about to run a business. People management, product management, and also to see the business management. Though there can be internal capabilities, however, a formal orientation to a similar kind of a scale with a mentor to handhold for the initial period for a year or so by government or by the institution, industry, academia, business associations. I think there are many who should try to drive them and give them a kind of a capsule of a very very top line orientation of what is important and how they will like to leverage their business, get best out of the their product and services. So I believe that this is happening to some extent, but there is a miles to go. I think we need to find some new opportunities and experienced people. I think the expert in those areas, women or maybe even men, who have already made a success out of the similar careers, should also guide them, should become the role model for them.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Kullar. That was very helpful. Ms. Don, any views on any gaps that you see that we can fill, in the near future in respect of women empowerment? Not only from societal point of view, but government and political standpoint and the laws.
Yeah, I would like to add here. I feel now during this COVID corona time, when we all locked down in our homes for 30, 40 days, we have realized that, and even in our Prime Minister's speech yesterday, we have heard that we have to be self-reliant within our village system, how we can be self-reliant. Now, within our villages, we know that there are a lot of women who must be having a lot of different types of talents. Now, I would say when we talk of women empowerment, start from the grassroots level of village panchayats. Now, many of these panchayats, in Goa, there are around 63 panchayats, I think, where as per law should be having a village sarpanch or a deputy sarpanch. But many of them are not effective because they are like dummy people put there, they are not aware about the acts, they are not aware about the powers of the village panchayat sarpanch or deputy, the functioning. So I feel basically at the village panchayat level, if you have sort of a survey or to find out what is the women's skill that we have there, how many graduates, how many undergraduates, how many technically skilled people, some may be good in arts and good in some trades, like some may be good in making household products, some may be good in doing some artistic products. So basically knowing what talents the village in your women have, that is the first step. Secondly, I think panchayat level, if you put up these things, getting them together, finding out what they lack. They may be lacking training, they might require further training, they may not be aware of the various state government and the central government schemes. Many of them may not be knowing about proper accounting, proper finance procedures, about banking, and all this training which we need to provide them after assessing what is our what is the merit that the people have around in the villages, they have to be guided and made to understand in the language which they will understand, holding just seminar hi-fi way, it doesn't help. Now I know a lot of self-help groups in North Goa especially, with whom I relate many times. They've been asking government for shops in every on lease, not free of cost, but on a lease in every Kadamba depot to market their products, because they do not have knowledge about how to market. They don't know about the supply chains. So when we talk of empowerment, and if we have to talk about self-sufficiency, it should start from the village level, assess what type of talent we have, give them all knowledge about the schemes of central, local government, about banking, finance, train them. And many of these people who have these talents lack seed capital. I know many women who want to start something, but they don't have the initial capital because they're at home. They wouldn't want to ask their brothers or the male persons in the house, because they may not show confidence in them. What if you go into losses, that sort of position. So working capital needs of a woman must be definitely protected in a different way. Now presently, even now, the government has made 12 hours working, for a workman's act, 12 hours minimum. There's going to be really difficult for the women, because they are expected not only to earn for the family, they are also expected to do the work at home. So if a woman does a 12-hour shift, how is she going to attend to herself as a human being, to her family, to her children, to the household chores? So some sort of relaxations must be given to them also at this point. This is what I feel,
That is very, very inputs. I think the general takeaway from this round of discussion is that there has to be a very robust, cohesive, integrated ecosystem, between private and public sectors to sort of work around these issues going forward. With that, I would like to move into the next segment, that is rural development. And the first question I would like to pose, Dr. Christina, as to how do you define rural development, and what do you predict its definition changing in the near future?
When we look at development, development implies investments that are made in any sector. So investments lead to development. In the rural economy, if people invest in the rural economy, we have development. But this development should not be short-term development. What I'm looking at is sustainable development. I think it needs to change towards sustainability. So it is development for over a period of time, whether it is in the agricultural sector, whether it is with the micro industries or in the service sector. Whatever investment takes place in the rural economy should be sustainable. So you should have sustainable development, sustainable employment being provided in the rural economy. Then only the rural economy will grow and develop. This one-time development or development for a short span of time, yes, is no longer going to work. So we should move towards sustainable development. So whatever economic planning is undertaken for the rural economy should be sustainable. So that is how I look at development in the rural sector, more towards sustainability.
That's right. Thank you. Dr. Kullar, your views, you are associated, in this industry for so many years. You have, one-on-one experience as to, how do you monitor and manage businesses, whether in an urban setup or a rural setup? Any feedback?
See, I think, whether it's urban or rural development activities, the infrastructure required, is more or less is similar. You need the marketplace, you need the accessibility, you need the travel, you need to know whom to connect. I believe a small guide of what can be done and whom to approach, like frequently asked question. If you need loan, how to go and whom to connect and what is step 1, 2, 3. Very simple and, in a local language. If you would like to sell, what are the opportunities and which are the market nearby to your place in your own district? There's general question at their level of education and awareness and orientation. We should try to go to that level, give them some what can be the question. Even one can conduct kind of a survey to see that what type of difficulties they face, and can those difficulties they face, one can answer those questions in a simple way, so at least 80-90% answers are given. Now in rural development, I think the most important part is the digitalization. Now you need not to go personally to every place to get into the look into the business. Digitalization, how to connect to your customer base, also the marketplace, where from you buy things, online buying, online selling, and be online marketing. These are very important. So connectivity, like whether it's a road, transportation, and also digitalization and awareness of a stakeholder. I think handhold by the X is a key part, whether it's a rural areas and they need in rural areas more. Can we find that at a district level, at a panchayat level, there is someone who can help them to guide to whom to connect? I think this is very important. May not be an expert, but you can say that, okay, I have a problem. Like you go to airport, there's someone who say, may I help you?
Yes.
And they will tell you, go to counter number so and so, and you will get this particular part, or go to this particular part, you will get this checking done. So I think the steps of finding what is not easily available and how it can be made available to the level of understanding which is easy, accessible, and really productive.
That's right. Thank you, Fuller. So, what are your views in your journalistic endeavors over so many years? How do you see things have changed, particularly in Goa, and whether there has been a significant change, and what can we look forward to in terms of rural development?
I think I would like to add to the same point which my other two panelists are saying about rural development.
Ms.
Although,
Dorn?
as far as, can you hear me? As far as the rural development is concerned,
Yes.
development basically could be of two types. One could be the basic infrastructure development that is required in villages so that people can take benefit of that infrastructure and start with their own other activities. But if you see the villages in Goa, many of them also lack this basic infrastructure of proper lighting, street transport, or telephone facilities. Though we say that everybody has a mobile and all, that's fine, but the basic telecommunications, postal services, or the banking services. Now, unemployment remains a very serious issue in many of the rural areas, especially the youth. Many of them are either matriculate or they're dropouts or they may go to ITI, but they are not employed. So if you have to strengthen the rural economy, first you've got to have a roadmap for that village, what that village can produce. For example, if you see North Goa, some parts of Perne, today also we read in papers, many of the youth have taken to agriculture. They have been, many of them have gone to for floriculture. They are producing good flowers, they are producing good agricultural products. So assessing what the village can produce, first of all, and what is the strength we have in the youth there to produce these goods. Then some villages also lack a market. Like for the area which I stay, Chimbel, they don't have a proper playground. They don't have a proper market. There are a lot of hardworking women there who grow our local vegetables. But those ladies have to all the way struggle to come to the Panjim market and sell them. With the local market, there are people who are ready to buy, but there is no market for them. So we have to first assess what the village lacks with respect to development, assess what talent is there in the youth, yeah, train them, if they lack certain training they require, and see where this force can be absorbed, because everybody cannot depend on government jobs. You have to see if they can start some micro units, some sort of small businesses which they can start probably. So this assessment is required with respect to village development. It is not merely developing a village doesn't mean only developing infrastructure or bringing in projects by
That's
ruining
right.
the environment wetlands and then putting it, getting labor force or allied force from outside the state. What happens to the local youth then? Where do they get the employment? These aspects have to be looked into.
Thanks, Ms. Don, for that. Since we have a short duration here, and we've got about 2-3 minutes left. So a small closing remark from each one of you on this endeavor of GDP and partners, and a quick view on what we are doing, and if you can guide us with a line or two, that would be helpful. Dr. Kulla.
So I think it's a very novel idea GDP is doing to find out what can be done under the current situation of COVID. And I personally believe when there is a challenge, there are opportunities. The challenge should be taken head on. And I normally say frustrate the frustration. I think this is my way of thinking. Never give up, frustrate the frustration. I think when everyone is struggling to, control the fire, use that fire to cook something which is very easy and very tasty. I think that is there. So use the adverse condition to drive it, make it something which is fruitful and new, innovative. There are two ways of success. One, you should be best. If you cannot be, you should be different. I think to be different under these situations are one which one can look into. Digitalize yourself, be aware, hand holding, find a gap, and then drive it. I think sky is the limit. This initiative will give ideas, and these ideas will be a catalyst for our future innovative ways of working. And I believe it's a good start, and this journey will be very interesting.
Thank you so much. That's very encouraging, and thank you for your kind words. Dr. Christina and Ms. Don, a line or two from your side, and that would be very helpful.
I must congratulate you all for taking this step in promoting the development of Goa and also seeking a lot of ideas from everybody in Goa. You must remember that Goa is blessed with a demographic dividend. So if you could utilize this talent of the demographic dividend, then it would go a long way in developing our state, and the growth and development of our economy would be enhanced. So just a thought on that, if you could, just utilize the demographic dividends that we are blessed in Goa with.
Thank you, Amey, and the organizers of this program. This will throw up new ideas which we can take up. I think problems like coronavirus and the future problems to come, world is changing. So we also have to change our methods of tackling the problems, have a positive attitude and try to make things workable even in the present situation, putting our heads together and coming up with novel ideas to channelize the talents among the women and the youth and making the village level self-sufficient in a different way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks for those kind words and encouraging words. I think there's a lot of takeaways from this session today. Thanks for your time. I know all of you are busy. This is a very engaging conversation, although we had a time slot. We look forward to interacting with you in the future and seeking guidance from time to time. So thank you once again and have a good day.
Thank you, Amey.
Thank you, Amey. Thank you, the other panelists. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, all of you.